Hi there, this is Frank Lesitz, the CEO of Vyral Marketing, and welcome to a live client interview, a Vyral Marketing client interview, where you are going to learn how Dan Beer, one of our great clients in San Diego County, he serves the whole county, but San Diego is a city, sold 188 homes last year. I'm just myself broadcasting. 188 homes last year. And that's in San Diego County. That's an incredibly competitive market. 500 homes total he sold with the help of his team over the past 3 years. So in this interview today, obviously we're going to talk about how Dan scaled up, a lot of team building, culture, hiring the right people. But we're going to try to keep our focus today around really what made him successful from a lead generation standpoint, which is his farming to a very large area of turnover homes. We're going to talk about the farming he did to be able to generate seller leads, as well as over the years in real estate, how he's communicating with his database, what's he sending to his past clients in his sphere, because a very large portion of his business comes from people that he knows and people that he's worked with. So we're going to take a lead generation focus today on how Dan has scaled up his lead generation efforts, obviously with the help of his team there. And before we get into this, I do want to share, Dan, you could talk more about this later. You've worked very hard on building a service called Agent Academy. Why don't you let everyone know really briefly about that, where they could check that out, and then we'll get into the meat of the hangout.
Sure. agentacademy.com. It's all online training. There's actually a lot of free training on the site. And every week we're putting out in-depth training. I'm talking 10, 15, even 20-minute videos going deep on some aspect of building a business, from zero to that first hire to leveraging upwards of $151 million of sales, which we did last year and on pace to exceed this year. So love to share with all of you as much as we can there, and check it out. A lot of free videos, so I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Dan, you did a really nice job at that. His website's great. It's agentacademy.com. And the reason I share that is Dan's in a very hyper-competitive San Diego market. And he has a lot of knowledge to share about the systems and everything that he's built to build a business, because I don't want this webinar to be about how we did it all. We're just going to focus on lead gen specific to viral marketing. All right. However, call to action for us, Vyral Marketing. You can go to getvyral.com before we get started and get a copy of the video marketing plan that we recommend for all of our clients. This is the video marketing plan that Dan follows. It's a video marketing plan that all of our clients follow to reconnect with, build, and nurture your #1 business asset, which is your database. It's your past clients, it's your sphere. And it's that plan is going to show you how to do that by creating educational, helpful video content, which is what we're all out here about viral marketing. So, Dan,
I'm
welcome.
Just smiling, by the way, because that's exactly how I met you. And now years later, that database has been just serving us. So it's awesome. So
you were watching a hangout like this where I was talking about the plan?
No, but years back, you had that plan out on your website, and I knew people that were very successful that were working with Vyral. So I started, just doing my Google.
Now you're on the hangout. That's great.
Looking around, seeing how I could figure out what they had figured out. Right. So that's cool.
Good. Yeah. So go check out that plan. That's the marketing plan that Dan follows. And Agent Academy is like the whole scope of how he built this business. We're going to focus on the story of the lead generation scaling up today. So Dan, and in the YouTube description, I wrote a really good, all the facts about his business are all in the YouTube description, which you can go check out. But let's just kind of start off with a very brief story, kind of be how you got into real estate. And let's get to the point of how you generated enough leads to get yourself going and to get the money to maybe start hiring a team. So we'll kind of speed through probably the first 6 years and spend more time in the latter 4 when you really started doing higher end lead generation. So give us your backstory, and then take us through all the implementation of all of the lead generation pillars for seller listings that you put in place here in San Diego.
Sure. If you go back to, it was about 2008, 2009. I'd been in the business for 3 years, 4 years at that point. I got licensed in 2005. And for those first 3 or 4 years, I had just been really doing what agents do. And that's not meant disrespectfully. It's just that there's a very low barrier to entry into this business. And so people tend to get licensed and then look around to see what everybody else is doing. And what they're doing is really just, they're going through that same pattern. They got licensed after very little effort, and they were taking a look at what others were doing. And so I was doing my 6, 7, 8 deals a year, kind of just going along, and it was all friends and family referral business. But when the market crashed, all of that friends and family business vanished. And so, if I'm answering your question here, Frank, the that my business really started to grow is I focused in on how can I now generate leads, because friends and family aren't calling anymore, right? It's 2008, it's 2009, that's just gone.
In San Diego?
Absolutely.
It was really gone.
Oh, it was crushed. I mean, it might not have been quite a Phoenix or a Miami, but it was right there with the, you know, Vegas, San Diego. Those were about the most pain markets in the country. So my thing happened to be internet leads. And so I started to generate internet leads. But here's the thing. Here's why this ties back to database. There's a lot of people out there generating internet leads. And a lot of people will tell you how they don't work and they're, you know, they're this, they're bad, or Zillow's this, Zillow's that, whatever. It's not a Zillow conversation. But even people doing well with internet leads on the actual conversion coming right out, you know, lead to sale, 2%, 3% for superstars. People claim 4%, but I've never seen it. Typical is actually 1% or less. But let's say you get 2%. You then have those other 98 people that you need to not just toss in the garbage. And we had no system through which to then do future deals with those people over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So what Vyral really started to be for us was we were looking for how can we efficiently communicate with all of them, plus the people that we actually were doing those deals with, those 2 deals, 3 deals for every 100 leads that were coming out of that one lead gen pillar. And how can we continue to communicate with them while also turning more business out of those other 98 that hadn't yet done anything over the course of time. And so for me, database marketing, it takes on a number of different meanings, because what we have found through the program on that very marketing plan that you mentioned earlier that we now have fully implemented is not just getting repeat business and referral business out of our database, but it actually also serves as a long-term incubation and education funnel for all of the leads that we haven't yet gotten a hold of. And essentially becomes a very effective, you know, not met campaign, right? And millionaire real estate agent language. Does that make sense?
100%. So to go back, 2008, everything tanks. You're working your friends and family to that point, and you go down on internet leads. So you start spending money, I'm assuming, on pay-per-click.
Well, keep in mind, this is 2008, 2009, so this is a different time. So I would never suggest that somebody jump in and make that everything they're doing in their business. But mine were all organic leads, SEO. I wasn't doing any pay-per-click. But in
you got in early on some keyword phrases. 2008,
2009, you can get a couple links going and just, you know, all of a sudden you had traffic. So those days are gone. It's incredibly competitive, so much more expensive to do it now. But in any case, the lead is the lead, whether it comes organically or PPC. So basically be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So online buyer lead generation you started, and that pros and cons with that. We don't have to go deep into that. That's one pillar. What's the next pillar?
So we have that coming in, and really we stayed there for a long time, and we were primarily doing buyer business. And that was okay. It helped us scale to 20 deals a year, 30 deals a year. All of a sudden, you know, I had an assistant, I had a buyer agent, which is a whole nother conversation because they were improperly onboarded, let's just say. And we've had to rebuild that a few times. But we reached the point where I had to make a decision, and that decision was that I was going to become a lister. And so the next thing that we added on was farming. We added farming, and that really started at a very, you know, small level. It was 2,500 homes that we were farming.
So let's go deeper in that. So why did you choose farming over all the other ways to generate seller leads? And how did you choose your first farm of 2,500? Where did you get the names, all that good stuff?
So, and you skipped out just a little bit. So did you ask me, why did I choose farming?
Yeah, why did you choose farming over the other strategies?
Yeah.
And then how did you do it? Get the names. What did you send? Let's go into that.
So I chose it because of a mistake that I had actually made over the course of the crash. When I was starting to get cash out of that internet lead pillar that I had built that was successful, I actually had started farming earlier. I started farming during that, but I stopped. Okay, so I started to get traction. I did what everybody else does, and all of a sudden I stopped. And then, to no surprise, fast forward a year later, 2 years later, I'm no longer doing business in those neighborhoods. And I realized that had I kept going, I really would be somebody there. I would have real market share. And so the other reason for it is that in studying all the different pillars of business you can bring in to your lead gen strategy, if you go take something like expireds, okay, so because you could try to become a lister through expireds, and we do, by the way, but it's really more of a support for us, because when you're doing expireds, the expireds are this part of town, that part of town, over there, and you go do a deal and it's great, you did that deal, but then that's it. And sure, there's people that are going to send them just sold cards in that area, but in my mind, that doesn't work. It doesn't work to
it's
mail.
fractional. It's not all in on a.
It doesn't work to mail the 100 homes around that one sale in an area where no one's ever heard of you one time. It works if you mail them 36 times, but not one time. So, radio, we've brought on radio since then. But again, it's all over the county that radio business is right, because you can't control who's hearing it, where, and so you're everywhere you go, you do the sale, it's become a good pillar of business, but after that sale, it's gone. That was that sale. There's no more sales, other than you can get repeat and referral business from that particular client, but you're not making an impact in that area. So what we realized about farming is that it's the only thing that actually grows and snowballs on itself. When you're farming an area and people have been consistently receiving your propaganda, your mail.
Yeah, I like propaganda.
Right? Yeah. Over the course of months and years, eventually, they understand who you are. And you also tend to get listings in that area. So when you get a list, they've been talking about selling their home, but they haven't told anybody. All of us, and they've been receiving your mail, they're aware of you. Suddenly you list the home across the street and 4 doors over, and they take note. They take note of, oh, look, not only is there a home for sale, but it's that guy that mails us all the time. And then you have your big open house, your grand opening, or whatever your system is to unveil the property to the market, and they actually come and physically meet you or with your team, but they're physically in the room with you. Then a few days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, particularly in this market, if you're doing it right, that sold sign goes up. And by the way, about this time, another mailer's hitting them. And so you're going to get that interview. And when you eventually list those people's homes, that same cycle, that same conversation carries over to somebody else, 5 doors over this way or 6 doors over that way, that we're also having that same conversation. Buyers, by the way, that are visiting open houses in the area because that's where they're focused, that starts to snowball. Guess who the agent is that those buyers are going to want to work with? And the coolest thing ever about farming that we hadn't realized until we really got a couple years into it is that because so many of your leads tend to come in the farm and you are an expert in the farm, here's how it goes. We all know that, even take a Zillow lead. Well, we all know that Zillow lead that inquires in a particular neighborhood, they don't automatically buy in that neighborhood. Sometimes they end up buying a zip code over that you might not actually know as well. But when they called in, or when you got the sign call, you sounded like an expert. They called and asked, they said, here's what I want, this is what, and you're like, oh, sorry, that one won't fit because in the afternoon, the sun sets this way, and so you're not gonna get the morning sun that you're looking for, so I suggest we go a block over, et cetera. So you're a total expert. And then when you guys realize that, oh, this might not be the neighborhood because price point's gonna fit better over there, or because, you're looking for a single level that doesn't exist here, et cetera, and now you're a zip code over, you're still the expert. They're not re-quizzing you. So you now have their trust regardless of where they buy. And so it enhances your ability to convert leads across different pillars of business.
What's interesting is you have gone very analytically and in depth thinking about the benefits of farming over other pillars, because it builds you a brand and an asset over time that snowballs on itself.
Right.
And it's like the foundation for when you get a listing, then they get something on top of that and on top of that, but the farming is always there to be top of mind. That's great. And one of the things we talk about at Vyral Marketing on previous Hangouts is you have to pick a target market. It's like marketing 101. So you pick the target market, not just shotgunning randomly all over the city that you're going to go all in on. You said you picked 2,500 homes. How did you choose your area of 2,500 and why?
So I didn't do what a lot of people do, which is so you just called me analytical. So here I'm going to blow that up, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people have, it's got to be at least X% turnover, and there can't be a dominant agent and it's got to be just perfect. I didn't do that. I said, here's where I want to do business. I want to do business here. It happened to be an area where I had already had some traction, just happened to be that I had sold a few homes there. And that, if you had mapped out all of my sales over the years, I didn't have a lot there, but it would have been where I had the most for me.
How do you get the names of the homeowners? You farm all the homeowners, or do you drill it down deeper? Who gets the mail?
So we use EDDM.
Every door direct mail through the U.S. Postal Service.
Absolutely, and you can you can get a sense for what that'll mean in terms of how many people you're mailing if you just Google EDDM and then USPS, right? United States Postal Service. So basically, you're mailing everybody in mailing routes, and that's the route. That's the road we took. I've taken a look at this often, where people just select, let's do these, just which are the homes they want to mail within a certain area. There are benefits to first-class mail in that you can hit absentee owners, which EDDM mailing is not going to do. It's only going to hit the people that are in the home, whether it be the tenant or a homeowner. Now, the areas that we're mailing are homeowner heavy, so it's not very tenant-based.
Overall, you've seen the cost increases of doing specific homeowners versus just EDDM.
Overall, what I have found is you might as well mail everybody instead of just particular people, because even though it seems more targeted, the cost is sometimes even higher, and you're hitting less people. I will say we're absolutely though missing out on the absentee owners, and that's
Okay, so 2,500 people you started with, and that has expanded as you've had more money to attack on more narrow fronts. Let's say it's now 38,000. Is that correct? How big your farm is?
32,000 now.
32,000 now.
And a lot of people look at that and they say, yeah, but they're doing all that business, but they mail 32,000 homes. Of course they do. And it's not the way it started, right? We went from 2,500 homes to 5,000. We're just reinvesting profit from the effort. And so we went from 5,000 to
what do you mean 2,500 at 5,000?
2,500 homes, and we started to get some profit out of that.
Oh, then you went to 5,000 homes.
Went to 5,000 homes.
Okay.
Kept that going, went to 7,500 homes. And then from 7,500 homes, we went to 10,000 and leaped up to 15,000. Now, at that point, the model was proven enough that after 15,000, we just went ahead and added 17,000 more.
That's great.
We did this, by the way, everything I just described as quickly as I described it was a 2-year course.
Okay.
So it was over time.
More questions. I'm going to keep drilling here because the audience wants to know. I want to know.
All right, Tom.
Cost. So for EDDM, so what are you sending? Tell me what you're sending and how often.
Yeah,
what's on it? Let's go through what you're sending and how often, and what you'd recommend to say the 2,500. Maybe not what you're doing now, but it's that 2,500. Knowing what you know, what would someone send to that 2,500 farm? And then after we talk about how often you're sending and what you're sending and what it's on, let's talk about cost.
And then what we do with those people afterward, right? Because then they just go right into our viral marketing plan.
Correct. That's next.
That's critical. Otherwise, you've completely failed to be a business person, and you just do not understand the lifetime value of your customers. You have to have that piece afterwards. But so what did we do? So there's 2 parts to this. There's launching the farm.
Okay.
So there's launching the farm, and then there's maintaining it. And we didn't, I've tried to invent very little over the course of my career, and we've grown on the back of best practices that we've learned around the country, and 8x8, right? So if Gary Keller wrote about the 8x8, we launch every time we add routes, we go 8 pieces over 8 weeks, and we get them very, very familiar with who we are. So 8 mailers over 8 weeks. And I'll talk right now what those look like, Frank. But
man, that's awesome. You go to 2,500 people every week for 8 weeks when you launch yourself into an area?
Launch. And then forever, we make at a minimum of 2 pieces a month. So every other week at a minimum forever. Now, we do have some homes within that area that we actually do some first-class mail to on some specific market update pieces for kind of their little tiny niche within the neighborhood. And that adds a 3rd piece that we send to about half of our farm area.
Sure.
But that's what we do. And what we send is the core piece we send is it's EDDM. It's about, gosh, it must be 4.5 or 5 inches, whatever it is. It's a long rectangle.
Okay.
So it's about,
they call them jumbos.
jumbo, big, rectangular piece.
Yeah.
Very high-end.
Panoramic.
Color, panoramic. But, you know, and it's funny because I'm sure I'm going to get people asking, well, where do you print them? Look, there's no like secret printing place. Okay, like if you print them with a local printer, there's a local printer where you live. You can go to gotprint.com. The printing isn't the secret. The secret is in what you put on that postcard. And it has to be a direct response mailer. It has to elicit response. And this is the real key. You can only afford to build brand once they've responded. Brand building will be a byproduct of the response that you elicit through your marketing. And I can go back through that a few times until it sinks in.
Well, they can go read Dan Kennedy's book on brand building.
One of the best things that I have ever read, and it's very true. Just at the core of it, we're not Budweiser, we're not Nike, and we can't afford to just send marketing out that just says, "Hey, I'm the best realtor in town. Hope you call me," or "Serving you," or, you know, "For the best customer service, call Dan." Like that just doesn't work, and you're like everybody else. And so you have to have very strong copy, very direct calls to action.
Give us an example of a couple of messages.
So we use it a lot, you know, by building in all of the risk reversal strategies that we have. So whether it's your guaranteed sale program, and, you know, people have seen those all over the country, but your guaranteed sale program, call now, you know, if you list with us by August 10th, receive a free staging package. So there's scarcity. So it's a very clear reason why they're going to respond to you right now. That's one major component to it.
Okay. I got to block my son out. Hey, Michael. Hang on, buddy. There we go. I'm back. Keep going.
Right. So that's one of the primary components to it. And the other component is, these are really, if someone looked at it, they'd think, oh, this is a just sold card. If an agent looked at it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot more to it. It's not just, there's elements involved where what we call them is evidence of success cards. And they involve stories. So we sold this home, X amount of asking price in X amount of days. And typically it's going to be pretty good, right? Like 101% of ask in 7 days. And here's a key. We don't identify the address of the property. And the reason for that is when you're starting out, I remember exactly what it felt like when I was starting the farm, and I would think, well, gosh, Dan's sending 2 pieces a month. I don't have 2 homes sold a month in that area.
It could be any home in any area.
Exactly. When we could have a home that we sold 45 minutes away, in most parts of the country, homes look somewhat similar from an exterior standpoint. Photography makes it look great. And so we might have sold the home 45 minutes away. If you mail it to whoever you're mailing it to, they're going to assume it's about them. People assume everything is about them. We're self-centered. And so no one in this part of town is going to think you're mailing them something from over there. So they will assume it's about them.
This is great.
Could, by the way, even be that you send the same, it might be the same house twice. It might be the same house twice, different picture. Okay? Just sold. You go ahead and define for me the legal definition of just sold. Does that mean 1 week, 1 year, a decade? I don't know. Right? So stop playing by the rules everybody else plays by because they don't actually exist.
Well, just show people that you're selling houses.
Yeah.
Like I'm selling houses.
I'm trying to add that because people will trip themselves up by starting to listen to their own little voice. Yeah. That's saying, oh, but I don't have that. I don't have this. I haven't sold that many. Right? So you have the direct response component and the story component. So we're letting them know, not just that we sold it, but, you know, the Smith family needed to get to Kansas or needed to move to Omaha, near Frank's family. They needed to be there by whatever date, but they were having trouble. They were on the market with another agent for X amount of time. And there was so much stress being built up because the house wouldn't sell. They heard about our marketing process and reached out to us, and thank God they did because they're now, you know, et cetera. So they had an issue, they had pain. Here's what the consequences of it could have been had it not been solved. But fortunately, they met you, listed with you, it was sold, everyone's happy. And you include that story in the card. So
this is all printed on a postcard.
It is.
So it's like a sales letter on a postcard.
To much degree, yes. You have that on the postcard. And by the way, what we'll do, Frank, let's see if we can creatively find a way to do this before this is even over, where if we direct people to any particular place, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. We go through something, but the key is there's so many lessons here. Let me just to recap for the audience. I'm going to move on to the viral stuff. Is that
keep us on the line?
You know, you're on doing buyer lead generation. You say, I need to go after listings. That's the leverage. I'm going to pick a target market. I'm going to start with what I can afford. You picked an audience of 2,500, but if you could afford less, it would have been less. But
I just had that conversation with someone. Do less.
Yeah, less. You could afford less. So I love how you have this launch of every week for 8 weeks to get some type of direct offer and success story. Direct offer, success story. Direct offer, success story. Right? Yep. And then after that, they get 2 a month, which is probably what, some type of market update with direct response and story. What do they get every 2 times?
So one of them is that card that we just discussed. What we do in one of our zip codes is we actually publish a newspaper. So we publish a newspaper. It's a 12-page, full-blown newspaper. I thought I had a copy of it right here. It's a full-blown newspaper that we actually are the publishers. And so we created the official real estate newspaper of 92127.
Hold on. So you have your own newspaper for an entire zip code.
Yeah. And it's awesome. We get these things out. It's 68 cents, full color, 12-page newspaper. Wow. And what that allows you to do is really cool.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of content that you can, that's a lot of flexibility for you to do what you need. If you're having a community event, you don't need an additional mailer to advertise it. It's in your newspaper. Whatever you need to get out there, whatever messaging you need to get out there, educational content, right? Whatever your favorite, sometimes what we'll do, our favorite viral video that we've shot during the course of that month, that becomes an article that's now our front page article to establish expertise and credibility and so on in the area. And of course, it's all scattered with direct response elements, right?
Well, you're the advertiser.
Home value, etc. So that's what we do. We do the evidence of success card and this newspaper that we publish. In another zip code that we're mailing, we don't do the newspaper because that area already had a community newspaper. So instead of competing with it, we actually advertise heavily in it and do the postcard. And then we do a lot of social media overlay too.
Well, let's talk about cost. So if I want to mail 2,500 postcards out, what is that generally going to cost one time?
So at 2,500, I don't have the exact number for you anymore because it's been a while since we've done that, and it's all based on scale. Yeah. But I would estimate at 2,500, you'd probably be at about 36, 37 cents a card or so, because it's not a big run in EDDM world. At what we're doing, we're printing 30,000 of them a month. We pay 28.5 cents. That includes the design, the printing,
and postage,
and most importantly, the bundling. So without going into an EDDM conversation, just make sure if you're going to go pursue this or research this and someone quotes you, ask if it includes bundling, because it has to be delivered to the post office in a very specific way. Otherwise, it's not going to be delivered.
Got it. Great. So I hope for you guys watching this have learned something. So real estate's very simple. We pick a target market and we do something to be in front of them all the time by showing them success stories and publishing educational information, which you have a newspaper, not a newsletter, a newspaper.
Newspaper.
That goes out to everybody, right? So it's absolutely educational information. And then I'm assuming people respond. So let's talk about some of the ways people respond to you. Whether it's to the website or the phone, what are the response devices from this marketing? And then let's talk about how viral marketing comes in to nurture that database going forward.
Well, that's one of the biggest things is I actually don't think anybody can really afford to establish any pillar of business, marketing-based business, until they have the long-term nurture campaign in place and the response system in place. So when you're spending money on marketing, you have to make sure you're going to respond to those leads very, very quickly. And the ones that don't pan out immediately, you have to make sure you're going to nurture them over the course of time.
So we're out of order. We should have. So before we do any of this farming, we need to get the things we're talking about now in place.
Without a doubt.
So let's talk about, okay, so we went out of order here. So that's the farming.
I know you like order.
Yeah, I know, but we had to go to other stuff. So let's talk about the call to actions on the farming. Let's talk about the phone calls and the lead capture forms and the long-term nurture. What do we do?
So where'd you like me to start? It's
well, let's talk about the response, the call to actions in the direct mail. Where do you send them? Why would they reach out to you? How do they reach out?
So I'll give you our system, but I want to keep it simple too, because keep in mind we have a 16-person team, and so
Sure.
it's going to look different than it might be.
What would it do if it's just one person trying to scale their team? It's one individual.
Well, at that stage of the business, it's, you are definitely on the path to finding leverage, hopefully, because otherwise you're going through what everybody goes through, and well, to some extent, it's unavoidable. You're going to be working those really long days at that stage of your career. But no matter what you do, if I look back to what I was doing back then, what helped me be successful is I understood I had to respond immediately. I have memories of, that lead form coming in, and I would be driving with my wife and I'd pull over and answer, or I'd leave the movie theater. Now, I'm not saying that's an ideal lifestyle. It's not at all. That's why you have to have eventually people in your organization that support the cause. But at a minimum, before you even go to do all of this, you have to have the right systems in terms of even what phone number are they calling, right? All the marketing that you deploy needs a very specific, a unique marketing number, a unique phone number that you can track and make sure you're actually getting response from what you're sending out. Most of those systems, when you get any kind of inbound phone marketing system, they also allow you to route calls however you wish. So at these times, send it to that person. At those times, send it over there, or ring everybody's phone at once. And so you just have to make sure that you have that in place where you're going to be able to either answer the phone or get it to someone that'll answer the phone. And so I would recommend you look up those systems. And there's several. CallFire's one, Dialogue Text another. There's many out there.
Yeah, we use a CallRail, and we love it.
Which I've heard great things about.
Yeah, but yeah, so you have numbers. So don't put your personal cell number on all the stuff.
Right.
Put some other numbers that routes through a central place so you can route it right and track it. Okay.
Exactly.
So why are people calling you? What's the call to action? Call us for a seller consultation? Or if they're going to a website, do you tell them to go get the free value report or search for homes?
So you asked me today in our business right now?
Yeah. What would you recommend for somebody starting off? What would the call to action be in this stuff?
Yeah. So when you're deploying, okay, so let's say you're going to start the farming campaign.
Brand new.
I would recommend that you work scarcity into it in some way. So it could be that you're offering the opportunity to win a free staging package if they're selling their home this year, so long as they, are under, if they list in the month of August, we're actually running this campaign now. If they list in the month of August and sell their home this year, they're entered into the opportunity to win a free staging package. It's scarcity, but I would credit a lot of success to developing that guaranteed sale messaging. You have to take risk off of your customer and onto you. You're just a guy or a gal that sent them some postcards and made some claims. So how can you carry the burden of the risk instead of them? There are 3 key ways in which we do it: our guaranteed sale program, our minute-to-minute listing agreement, and we offer a flexible commission schedule. Those 3 stacked one on another. And then if you layer in any kind of scarcity, right? And by the way, get a free staging package if you do X by this date, that will tend to drive a phone call. And you could also test how did that, on a month-over-month basis, you're testing how did that do versus the previous month's message. And
what you found by doing this, it really is interesting. People think, oh, we don't need to have those types of offers. If I put my face on there, people will call me.
Yeah.
But is that true?
No. It's really not. Look, you're going to find the exceptions. You're going to find that agent that happened to be the most popular at the country club and everybody loves her, and she's just everyone's favorite person, and she throws the world's greatest parties and people just like to give her business. But I don't know how to duplicate that. I don't know how to systematize that and make it a dependable process through which I can promise my family that I'm going to be able to feed them. And so
you have to get comfortable with making irresistible risk reversal offers.
Yes, and that's something we spent a lot of time studying. That's exactly something we spent a lot of time studying. But once they come in, you need very fast response. And we've all heard the 5-minute rule, but we believe in a 1-minute rule. It has to be right now. And once that conversation has happened, if you haven't yet set an appointment, then they need to be in a CRM system that very specifically tells you what, this is a person doing something within the next 30 to 90 days, which means you are now going to call them 14 days from now, every 14 days, or until they become, right? You need that lead management policy layered in along with very quick response. And the reason you're going to need quick response is because people will call based on the messaging in those.
This is good.
Those cards.
So let's step back and order what we talked about. We have picking a niche area. We launch into that area with something every week for 8 weeks, then to twice a month, using Every Door Direct for the mailing vehicle, the United States Postal Service. And then we get them to respond by layering lots of offers on top of each other, like we talked about, which is we didn't quite sure. Obviously, you call in to talk about selling your home, which goes through some number tracking system that you probably have someone dedicated full-time responding to those calls, so they're on it right away. Do you have any call to actions to go to your website to opt in for stuff?
For getting your home value, the typical home value call to action.
Prices are going up. Find out what your home is worth. Go here.
Yeah, the only issue with it is we're not convinced. We know that as an industry, we found something that will drive, sellers, potential sellers to
homeowners.
Thank you. Yeah, much better said. Homeowners to be curious about that, but there's a better call to action out there, and I can't tell you exactly what it is. We still run the home value call to action, right? So visit this website to get your home value now. Prices are up, or find out what it's really worth. But I can't say that's been the most effective thing we've done. So we've started to dedicate less space to that and more space to other other aspects of our marketing message.
Now, is your stuff generally branded Dan Beer Team, or do you go like unbranded with your stuff?
It's branded Beer Home Team. We rebranded recently. We took my first name out of it. So it was the Daniel Beer Group. Now it's the Beer Home Team. My picture's still on everything. I think that's key. And particularly in farming, if we go back to that, that they're identifying you continuously in the marketing, on the signs. And you'd be, most people are going to say, but then that means you're going to always have to go on the listing appointments, and you'd be surprised it's not necessarily the case. I mean, consistently,
that's a whole other conversation. I'm sure you have videos.
I'll throw this in, Frank, too. I know there's a lot here, and we can go much deeper on pretty much any of it. But what also really creates response anytime you're marketing, and this is something you can use, whether it's radio, postcards, newspaper, and no matter what you're doing, this matters. What you do, figure it out, take your process, build something into it that's unique, and give it a name. Give everything you do a unique name. And so our marketing process, we've trademarked it. It's called the 5-Day Blitz. It's our name. And now, so all our marketing, it's, using our trademarked 5-Day Blitz process, And so the reality is trademarking something doesn't really, it's pretty easy to do. You just go ahead, get a trademark, 6 months later, you have the trademark. But to the public, they don't know another agent with a trademark process. They've never heard of that. And you're now building massive authority. So when you layer that into your postcards or any of the other messaging or your website, your calls to action, that's been tremendous. And we try to name and trademark as many things as we can.
I'm going to trademark the Vyral marketing system.
Yeah. Well, there's patenting the system, which is a lot harder to do. But if you give your process a name, even take something like this, Frank. Every agent in America prices homes, right? They have to price homes. Every time they list a home, they have to price it. Well, we've trademarked our system for pricing homes. We call it virtual shelf space, and it has a nice little trademark symbol. So when we're educating people on any of our viral marketing emails, our video emails, when I'm writing articles on our newspaper, when we're at any kind of home seller or buyer workshops, when we're presenting, or even just simply at a one-on-one listing appointment, we speak to them about this trademarked home pricing process called virtual shelf space. And then you just simply transition into, which, by the way, is one of the main reasons we've been recognized by the Wall Street Journal among the top teams in the nation.
That's great.
Right? When you layer that together, it's irresistible.
Well, it's a documented approach. You have a specific documented plan that you're bringing to that person that you know as a proven, repeatable process is going to work, and people love that.
They do. And they really have never heard of another agent with anything trademarked. All agents are the same, right? And that's what everybody's battling. That's at the end of the day, if you want to boil this business down, it's how are you going to not be the same as everybody else?
Yeah. Well, this is a great transition. So let's kind of get into the viral marketing stuff now. The database marketing of positioning yourself as the expert by showing them that you're not like every other agent. So you're responding to these leads. Not everyone's ready to buy or sell a home yet, obviously. And you start building up this database of people that you've spoken with, these homeowners that need to hear from you. So let's talk about your decision to start doing the viral marketing program, your fears, your concerns, and be completely honest. I really want to know why you did this and why you didn't or didn't want to do it. But also, too, let's make sure we have time to, when you implemented the past client and sphere pillar. So be clear, we're talking about kind of lead nurturing right now with Vyral, which is fine. But also there's a whole other pillar. We have past clients and centers of influence. So where you started off with in your business before you got the websites. And eventually over time, you start building up a past client list, which where's the stats? I want to read this real quick on your past clients. 52 deals, $712,000 in commission from that past client database.
Last year.
From last year, yeah. So anyways, decision to use viral marketing, nurturing your leads when they come in. Talk about that.
Which, by the way, what's interesting about that stat you just gave, it's just under 10% of our past clients, right? We have, I think it's about 650 past clients.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
The goal is, can you turn 10% of those a year into another deal or a referral? That's the goal. We're getting close. And so give me the question again.
You know, every real estate guru out there says 10% of your database, your real database, should give you a deal a year, and you're hitting it.
We're almost there. We haven't hit it yet.
Pretty close. That's darn good.
Very close.
Especially for somebody who has scaled up like you have, to have that as the foundation there where you didn't forget about that. I write about that in the marketing plan, the database reset. Just kudos to you, man. That's really good. So the question is, you're generating these leads. Not everyone's ready to sell. You're building up this list of all these people who have responded or people you've talked to. You didn't have a wait. You know, what were you doing originally to stay in touch? And then you heard about viral marketing. Talk about your decision to follow the viral marketing plan.
So before Vyral, the issue is we knew we were growing this big, database of leads. And we knew that we had past clients that we also needed to communicate with. But the past client communication was, hey, I think we should call them now. I tell my assistant, hey, I think we should quickly, let's do something. Let's call them. Let's get an event. Okay, great. We'd do that. And then there'd be nothing. Or all those leads that were in there, it was all of a sudden like this panic moment. Hey, I think we should send an email. Or then we try to implement a system. Like, hey, what if every 2 months we sent, or every month, excuse me, every 2 weeks, every month, we sent an email and we told them about all the homes we'd sold. Okay, sure. But inevitably, we'd have to deal with the graphic design and how do we get it in and all the minutia that I didn't enjoy doing. And that even though I was paying her theoretically to do, there was actually there was just higher level work I needed her working on at the time, because I would prefer her building out our customer service platform than messing around with MailChimp or something, right?
Yeah.
So it really just came down to, when we understood what you were doing, it was just a moment. It was like, okay, like, yes, we could do this ourselves. Yes, we could get a camera and shoot and figure out some editing software of some sort and then get it into but we were honest with ourselves. Let's look at the past. We haven't been doing it. We're not consistent. So for us, it was just, let's just get this thing out of the way. How many more conferences do we want to go to? How many more seminars? How many more classes where that main thing you should be doing, we still haven't even really done because we can't get ourselves organized enough. And so you guys to us were just a way of saying, that is now done. That's taken care of. That's no longer an issue in our world. We now communicate on a consistent basis with our database, with our unconverted leads. And so meaning them plus all of our past clients. And we do it with 30 minutes, an hour of work at times a month. And that's just, we'll tend to shoot multiple videos in one chunk. So it's really just one sitting, right?
Yeah.
Month. And for us, that was just huge. And at about the same time, actually, Frank, and I don't know, maybe this is actually part of why you did what you did with your company. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to know. But content is king was just that's what everyone was talking about, and online content, and how do you get content out there, and how do you get interesting stuff out on Facebook and on social media and on your blog, and actually have a robust content platform with things that people actually want to know about and hear about.
Yeah.
And so this program of just simply sending an educational video email, which establishes credibility, expertise, authority, and trust over time in a highly leveraged manner, was a no-brainer for us. And it's been awesome. I mean, how long have I been a client?
A long time. I remember sitting up in La Jolla Cove talking to you on my cell phone before I got rid of it. Because I remember I didn't have a cell phone for like 2.5 years. I was like, Dan Beers? He's like, no, one beer. Dan Beer.
One beer.
I gave you the whole last name thing, and like, okay, I heard it before.
Yep. It's
That was cool, man. And I kind of convinced you on the plan. You've been following ever since, and look at you now, man. You should be very proud of yourself.
Well, our research pointed us toward content marketing, education-based marketing, being the most powerful type of content. And anyone that's ever educated in any platform, in any in front of any size audience, knows there is no more powerful way of gaining trust, credibility, and authority, which is what any marketer needs to be able to get to demand from their audience. And so we were learning about and studying that and understanding that's what we needed. And we also were very well aware of all the shortcomings we had with our consistent follow-up. And so you saw that. Thank you.
And you took a step further. So one of the things that we taught at Vyral is like, okay, Dan, let's say we grab your Facebook friends, let's grab your LinkedIn connections, let's grab all your CRM contacts, let's reconnect with them, and then let's start sending out 2 educational messages a month to your email list that you're acquiring through permission-based, people calling in, you're talking to people, to put them basically on your real estate newsletter, to stay updated with what's going on in San Diego real estate with our videos, online, right?
Right.
But those go out, people open them, they watch them. You work on creating good topics with us, which there's lots of good information on how to create good video topics up on our website. I don't want to go necessarily into that today. That's pretty standard of what we cover at Vyral Marketing, our core content. One of the things that you're doing that most of our clients don't do is the very last step of the system. You have to reconnect, you have to add people to your database, you have to record 2 videos a month, and then finally we can sit there and wait, Dan, for our ship to come in, or we can go and swim out to it, can't we? Do we like the business cliche?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're swimming out to it because you can actually, the last step is call the people that are engaging with the content, the lead scoring.
Right.
Now, you're an advanced marketer. I want you to tell this audience for the next 12 minutes, just go lead scoring and the importance of that as we see this proliferation of online leads happening and the key of calling people that are engaging online with stuff. Tell us about that. You mentioned that.
Describe the way we're particularly doing it.
No, just tell people what it means and the importance of it.
When you're sending these emails go out, and you want to understand, and essentially software can actually assign a score to who's opening them, who's clicking in them, who's revisiting them, who's watching the videos. And so based on that, and based on when's the last time we called that person, the lead scoring system it gives us a list essentially in real time of who are the most engaged people so that we start to call them. And as part of, we do it through our ISA, and particularly one of our ISAs, Stefan, his calendar's time blocked so that when those lead scoring reports come in, that's who he's engaging with, that's who he's calling. And it's some people believe in kind of hiding it, like, hey, how are you? I was thinking about you, and it just so happened they were watching the video. We've tested both, and we really believe that, well, to some degree, it depends who they are and what their source is and what your relationship is with the person. But there is definitely time when it's appropriate to just reach out and say, hey, Frank, it's Stefan, the Beer Home Team. We sent that video out to you. It looked like you enjoyed it. It was regarding finding off-market inventory as a buyer. Are you currently in the market for a home? And
beautiful.
Yeah. And so
it's like you've done this before and you taught this.
And so that's been effective. And that's the thing that people tend to do the least consistently. but like anything else, the few people that are going to do it, that's going to get them.
Well, I think your biggest thing is you have it time blocked and you have someone that will make the calls.
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell people what an ISA means and what is that?
Our ISA, inside sales agent. So essentially what we have is somebody on the team dedicated to nurturing the database. We take our database very seriously, as you could already tell, right? So one of the things that we've done is hired somebody whose job it is not to go call expireds, not to go knock on doors and find new business and call FSBOs, which is how so many people use their ISAs. And by the way, you can have an outbound ISA, but the most important ISA position, inside sales position, in my view, particularly when you've gone through painstaking efforts to create a database, is to then expertly communicate with that database without fail. So that's what he does. His entire job isn't to create leads, but rather to nurture the pipeline, move people through the pipeline, and book appointments for our sales executives, which are our agents.
Oh, beautiful.
And
that content marketing is just backing him up so that when he calls, oh, Dan Beer team, I know who you are, and
it establishes a lot of, it creates authority and it creates trust. And so he has something very specific to speak with them about. He knows it's not out of the blue. He knows they're aware of who we are. He knows they opened the email. He knows they watched the video. And so it's a very easy conversation. If you want to take it a step further and get even more advanced about it, you can document, well, when did that call happen, so that you're not necessarily calling them 4 hours later based on some other list telling you to call them, right?
That's great. How do you put time into these videos, you give us money. How do you track this, that it works? How do you know at this point that this works? Or are you just so philosophically aligned to it that you have to do it?
There's some truth to the second thing you just said, but we do track it, and we simply track it through what is the, if we had 650 past clients and 11 of them were giving us business, we wouldn't be giving you any more money. But because we're getting close to that 10% level, that's our goal. And frankly, Frank, you've heard that one.
Frankly speaking.
A million times. I hate myself for doing that. I don't like being that cheesy.
It's okay.
So where am I going? That threw me off. So
we're talking about tracking ROI, and
you
would stop paying us
10%.
You weren't selling anything.
10% turnover, right? So if you have 650 clients, that should give you another 65 clients. So now whatever 650 is plus 65, 715, I believe. Next year, you should be getting 71, 72 deals out of that, and it's going to continue growing. It's essentially like compounded interest, right? I mean, it's literally like compounded interest, and that your business can truly operate that way. So that's what we measure it to. That's working. We're getting very close to goal at 10%. When I was going to talk about being frank, is that 10%, I'm afraid, is just one of these rules that everyone's playing by that's not really a rule. Like, why can't it be 20 and why can't it be 30? If
you mean the return on your database?
Yes. If you also have a phenomenal, it has to be deeper. I'm not claiming that Vyral on its own is going to get you there, to 20 and to 30% turnover on your database. But if you have a phenomenal customer service platform, if you're actually measuring happiness among your clients, satisfaction levels, how likely are they to refer you to somebody? If you're assigning a net promoter score and actually following the net promoter score system, post-closing surveys to understand who's happy, who's not, why, and then improve your processes. If you're doing all that, and then you layer in a real community aspect, events, we have a client perk program where they can have all kinds of stuff, party rentals and notary services and so on for free for the rest of their lives. When you layer all that in together, and then you continue educating them twice a month through these video emails, so they understand that you're really still there, you're really present, you aren't the thing of the past, like you're still today's expert. I believe the 10% marker is just one of our own little made up things. Like it's a rule that we don't have to play by, and we want to try to blow past it.
Dan, let me ask you this question. When did you transition your mindset and philosophically from a salesperson to like a business person, which is that entire conversation we just had about all these things you're implementing, right? Look at all the things that you're doing. You started off as a real estate salesman, and now you run a real estate business. Help our audience understand what helped you make that mindset change. Maybe what you learned, what you read, where you went to be able to wrap your head around everything that you do, because you're so good at like spatially organizing it and compartmentalizing it and seeing it all from a 10,000 foot view on a like an entire customer life cycle from the lead comes in all the way to the very end of referral and repeat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
how'd you build that skill?
It's for me, it goes back to a short little story where I was showing property on a Sunday, and it was a multi-million-dollar property showing that I was doing. And most agents, and actually myself included, I was stoked to be doing it. Right? It was going to be a somewhere roughly $3 million sale, fancy part of town, Fairbanks Ranch here from San Diego. So it's a Sunday, and I go to show the house, and here's where my entire world shifted. I'm waiting for the listing agent to show up so that we could go in and take a look at the house. And car parks, they're walking up, and sure enough, it's a very high profile. Did I lose you there, Frank?
Nope, I'm here. Go ahead. It's
a very high profile agent, a very, very high profile agent who's very successful. She was actually making at least, she's definitely making more than $1 million a year, maybe two. But what hit me is that it's Sunday. Sure, I'm there, but I'm just a young guy trying to make it, right? But she's an established like industry icon, and she's showing up on Sunday to open up this door. And I was like, holy crap, I don't want to be her. I don't want to be her. I don't want to be, by the way, she's 65 something, right? 60 years old or so. So I'm just like, she's an incredibly successful agent, but I don't want to be opening doors at 60 years old on a Sunday. And that started to put me into that just got me on a mission to figure out how to change it. What can we do different? I happened to then be at a conference where, I've told this story before, I don't know if you've heard it, but Greg Newman, who's in town. Greg Newman, big agent, established agent, but he's a business guy. Okay, so he's a business guy, and I was at a conference, a marketing conference, and I got the chance to hear him speak, and he talked about how he's very gruff, all right? He's very straightforward, so I hope no one takes offense here if you're not quite at this level yet, but in fact, hopefully I'm serving you the way he served me. He says to the audience, just very bluntly, he says, if you're not selling 24 homes a year, 2 homes a month, then what the hell are you doing? And I was like, whoa, I didn't know you could sell 24 homes a year. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't realize that was an actual thing that could be done. And he goes on, right, to talk about how if you're not, it's just, all I'm asking you to do is sell 2 a month. You can fail the other 28 days, but just sell 2 homes a month. So then I'm like, okay, wow. And then just about that same time, I ended up on these Facebook groups, and particularly like that mega agent Keller Williams group, where you start seeing people that are doing 100 deals and 200 and 500 deals a month, or a year, excuse me. And so I just got on an education craze to go figure out how they were doing it. And well, that's what initiated it. That education craze has never stopped. That's why I've built Agent Academy, right? agentacademy.com, where we're just putting out a ton of education there. But that was number one. Number one was my mind had it wasn't yet a shift. It was just a realization that, oh my God, there's a whole world out there I don't know about. I went to go search it out. But then the other shift that's critical is when you start to understand that you're not so important. You're not so important that you can't, that you have to be at every single showing. You're not so important that every single person that calls in must speak with you. You're not so important, right? Because in fact, if you actually start to do well in this business and you're getting more clients, you will get to the point where you can't service them properly. You will become a worse agent because you have too many clients and no service platform. And so that all started to come together, Frank, and I don't know if this story makes any sense or not, but I started to then study leverage, study hiring, made some bad mistakes, learned a lot.
You found your motivation. You found that pain point.
I found my motivation.
And you found the motivation, and you dove incredibly deep into education. And let me ask you 2 questions. One is, will you sum up for the viral marketing audience, or for someone that's not getting results at viral marketing, just tell them about, again, sum up why they should do viral marketing. And then I want you to explain, take some time, the story, tell me about Agent Academy, what it's about, how it's going to help people, who it's for. Start with Vyral, then let's talk about
Where's Virals? Yeah, Vyral. If you're not having success, if you're a Vyral client, you're not having success with it. You kind of have to take a breath, pause, and first of all, are you actually following the program? Right? Because most people aren't that are not having success. Most people aren't. Oh, I send it sometimes, I don't others. Sometimes I call, sometimes I don't call. So follow the program. Well, the number one thing, like when an agent comes on our team and they want to change all our scripts, it's like, wait,
no.
how about you do the script about 1,000 times? If you then find a little modification that needs to be made, then let's talk, right? So actually implement the program before you judge the program. But no, it's Vyral, Frank, something I think is cool. When we're internally talking about our, our Vyral program or this, we just use that. It's almost like Kleenex. We just mean our database marketing, right? Our education system, our video system. It's just our Vyral system. It's just what it's called. Like if you shut the business down, we'll still call it that.
It's great.
But you just have to religiously do it. You have to dedicate yourself to it. Earlier, Frank, you mentioned, like, are you so philosophically aligned with the idea that it's going to work? If every time you're shooting a video, you're feeling like, oh, this isn't going to work. Like,
yeah, like, why am I doing this? I should be on the phones. This is a stupid waste of time.
They can sense that. They can sense that. And when I was talking about taking a step back and just understanding what you're even doing, you're not sending a video so you get 17 listings today. What you're doing is differentiating yourself from all of the other agents that have no content to speak about, aren't educating people, aren't building authority, aren't building trust. You're giving yourself a huge head start with those people. And if you can churn 10% of them over the course of your career, it's going to be, for us, it's our highest ROI, right? We have another pillar of business that gives us more deals, which is our farming business. But this gives us
the highest profit margins from the database.
Without question. Yeah. So hope that answered the question for you, but just follow the plan. How many people don't follow the plan? Do you get frustrated by that?
All the time.
So
you do with humans, but it's just, I think it goes back to the reason someone doesn't really follow it is, one, they don't really have a motivation or a need of what they're looking to solve. And you saw that older agent that you didn't want to become, and that had a huge pain point for you. So they find the motivation. And second, when you dove in deep to the principles of marketing and sales, you found these core truths of being in front of people all the time as an educational expert, and you philosophically understood the depths of the importance of that. So you came to your videos, you came to your content to really create good stuff, not just, oh, I got 15 minutes, let's shoot something crappy and let me move on with my day, right?
Look, so postcard marketing, which is, I would believe, almost more widely accepted because it's just been a thing that's been around for absolutely ever. How nice would it be if every time we sent a postcard out, there was some little button that, as soon as their fingerprints touched the postcard and their eyeballs read it, you were somehow alerted that that person had just digested your content, so you might want to call them. If every time you sent a postcard out and you had the ability, if you sent 1,000 of them out, but you had the ability to call 100, that actually somehow the postcard could scan their eyeballs and you knew those were the people that read the postcard, and you can call those 200 out of 1,000, might you do more business? Of course. That'd be the coolest technology that ever existed, possibly. That's what email marketing allows. It's literally exactly what email marketing allows.
Well, I appreciate that, Dan. So why don't you just go ahead and take 5 minutes. I know it's always uncomfortable pitching something, but I want you to explain to the audience. And if you're still watching, I want you to pay attention to what Dan has created. He stepped back and has created an entire video training course and academy of all of this brilliance inside of his head, of how he dove into all this education to build a very successful real estate team making money, in an incredibly competitive market in San Diego. And because you love this stuff, you want to help. And also, I can see this as your goal is to expand. It'll be your training for your expansion partners is one of the reasons I'm sure you put together. Why don't you tell people what it's about, who it's for, what they're going to get? Explain it all. Take your time. Yeah,
absolutely. So Agent Academy, where we've done everything you just mentioned and actually taken the time to organize it, very, very carefully.
Well, that's one of the biggest problems on YouTube. It's all disorganized and different philosophies and approaches you had to string together.
What it is, it was born out of this idea. What if we could take our entire business from head to toe, our entire, let's call it our operating system, from our people systems, which are our hiring systems, our onboarding systems, recruiting systems, to our lead generation systems, how we structure the buyer department, the listing department, the operations team, team pulse. You know, how many people out there already do have the team or the beginnings of a team or even an established team, but the conversations are, how do you get them to come into the office? How do you get them to do it? You know, how do you get the team all working together? You know, what should the splits be so there's not arguments every time we, like, all of those conversations, we document exactly over the course of 49 videos, actually, on what's our flagship course called CEO Agent Academy. The idea is, what have we documented all of it? And so it's it's a 7-week is what it's turned into, a 7-week course. Now, it's not yet released, and it will be over the course of the next few weeks. But in the meantime, on a weekly basis, we're shooting 15, 20-minute in-depth videos. So, for example, any of the content that we talked about today could be its own much deeper 20-minute bullet point by bullet point, everything you want to know about it process or video. And all we're doing is actually just sharing exactly what's worked here. It's helped us generate $151 million of business last year alone. The business is now on the Inc. 5000 list that'll be coming out here shortly, Frank, and we'll find out what the ranking is. Fastest growing companies in America.
Oh, congratulations.
We were just awarded the 38th fastest growing company in all of San Diego County, which is a robust business market and entrepreneurial market by the San Diego Business Journal.
Yeah.
And so managing that head to toe, that's what that product was. But what it evolved into is, hey, what if we also put a ton of free content out there and every single week just shared what's working? What are we testing? What are, you know, from, hey, here's a script that's really working great, to here's a hiring process that's working great. And we just started to put it all out there. So if you visit agentacademy.com, you'll see the makings of that. And most importantly, make sure you register for the coming farming class. It's going to be a 3-day live training course. Okay, so for over the course of 3 days, and Frank, I think you'll dig this, for 3 days straight, we're going to actually shoot a farming course that we're going to sell at a later date. But we're going to shoot it live, and whoever wants to watch that course being shot live just gets to join us, and it's obviously free. It's over the course of 3 days. That'll be in October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Everything from identifying the farm all the way through, you know, the messaging, the content, the pieces, what you need to look for, the mindset, everything will be in that course. But we're going to actually do it free and live over the course of 3 days. So we hope people will join us for that. It's going to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much for your time, man. Go check it out, agentacademy.com. If you're looking to get involved with viral marketing, go to our website, getviral.com. First, download the official video marketing plan. I want you to read that so you philosophically align with the approach we take behind education-based video marketing to a database to help you grow your business, in this case, real estate, get more listings. And then if you want to, you can request a free strategy call with us. We'll just kind of talk about the video topics in your database and the results you can expect. And you get a 30-day no-risk trial. So we'll get your videos out. We'll get you launched. If at any time in the first 30 days you don't like working with us, you don't like the results, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter what the difference is. Just like you have, Dan, risk reversal. We'll give you all your money back in 30 days for any reason. You have a 30-day out. Sound good? So go check it out. Dan, thank you so much for your time, buddy. And we'll see you guys next time.